Well, welcome to the Hospitality Playbook, your go-to space for real talk, real stories, and real strategies from the world of hospitality. So take a seat, get inspired, and let's kick off today's episode. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Revenue Management with the Hospitality Playbook, where we're going to dive into the strategies, systems, and stories behind the numbers in hospitality. I'm your host, Caleb Arsenault, and today we're exploring the dynamic world of revenue management across hotels, casinos, and food and beverage operations. Whether you're running a boutique property or a sprawling resort or a multi-venue entertainment complex, the art and science of revenue optimization is more critical than ever. From dynamic pricing and demand, forecasting to player tracking, and menu engineering will unpack how data, technology, and human insight come together to drive profitability and guest satisfaction. Joining us are industry experts who've mastered the balance between occupancy and ADR, gaming, spend, loyalty, and plate cost versus experience. We're going to talk trends, challenges, and the future of integrated revenue strategy with these three other fine folks. I'm going to let you introduce yourself so our audience knows who's sitting around the table with us today.
I'm Britton Simmonsma, and I'm our Chief Revenue Officer.
Ken Klug, Chief Financial Officer.
And I'm David Kleinsma, the Chief Information Officer.
And of course, I'm Caleb Arsenault, the CEO, and these guys make the magic happen across our company. And of course, Britton is going to be the wise one. She is the all-knowing revenue manager, especially on the hotel side. She and her team of revenue managers do a fantastic job. So we're going to jump right into the hotel side of things. And I'm going to tell just a real quick story. Really early in my career, I sat in an interview, and I was asked by the CEO of the company what I knew about revenue management. And I'm like, well, I read the P&L. I can read a P&L. I can see insights. I can balance the checkbook. I understand what a ledger looks like. And I completely bombed the question, right? When you hear revenue management, what does that really mean in our industry? It's probably not reading the P&L, right?
No.
It's probably not looking for insights in your financial statement.
No.
What does it really mean?
Take it away.
Wow. So very basic, starts with setting our rates in our hotels, what we sell each room for every night, finding that optimal price point based on the time of the year, the type of guest. It encompasses so many things, it's kind of hard to put it down to the one statement. It's actually kind of hard to tell people what I do.
So at the end of the day, revenue management means how do we drive top line? In my mind, and that would have been the correct answer to my interview question. Fortunately, I still did get hired. But I had a lot to learn, obviously, about what revenue management meant. And it's truly driving top line to the greatest potential possible. And I think there's a lot of ways to do that. And, especially on the hotel side, it is such a dynamic process. So that has evolved in hotel revenue management over the years. There was seasonality. It's the set it and forget it. Maybe we have a summer price and then we have an off-season price, or a peak season price and an off-season price. And operators were able to just set the rate and then you just let it ride. You were going to pay $129 for my room. It's your choice to stay or not stay. So maybe let's talk about how that dynamic pricing process has evolved over the years, and what does that really look like?
Well, for most of my experience, it's been with Live. So we've kind of never followed the set it and forget it, or had one price, for the summer season, one price for the off season. I immediately think on this side of managing rates is the technology has made everything so much faster for us. So we can make decisions and change prices much quicker and on the fly, and not just, it used to be like once a day.
Mm-hmm.
Now we do it multiple times. I get notifications when rooms move. So it happens a lot faster.
So there's this, from an economics standpoint, there's this the sentiment that demand is inelastic, which means it doesn't change. So travelers coming into the Black Hills area, every single year, it's going to be what it is. You can't influence it. You can't change it. There's going to be a certain demand of travelers that come into the area. I personally do not subscribe to that tenet. I believe there is a portion of that travel you can influence with price. So maybe let's talk a little bit about the inelasticity of hotel room demand in any given market. What are your thoughts? Do you think the travelers that are coming to the Black Hills, if there's 4 million travelers that come every year, it's going to be 4 million, and you can't have 4,002,000, or you can't have 4,500,000?
No, I think it fluctuates, and we've seen it. If you look at 2020, we definitely didn't have our normal amount of travelers come. If you look at the following year, we had a lot more. You can totally influence it and bring people to the area.
And those geopolitical events, obviously the pandemic was a massive disruptor to our industry, but in terms of, we'll call it a normal travel year, does that demand change? And if it changes, can we influence that change? Can we invite more travelers in and actually get them to travel here?
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot through the marketing. It's reaching people who have never heard about the Black Hills before, or maybe they're planning their cross-country trip and decide to make South Dakota their stop. We can totally influence it.
It's a certain amount inelastic that, yes, you can help drive people to the area or to your hotels, but not to us like specific, a Tuesday in January is going to be,
Right.
We're going to fill every place on a Tuesday in January. That's probably not going to happen.
And I think that plays into the set it and forget it model, and why that's gone by the wayside. Fortunately, airlines have used this dynamic pricing model really, really well for years. This is the backbone of their revenue generation. If you sit on a plane and you talk to everyone sitting around you, do you think they're paying the same ticket price as you are?
Yeah, it's different.
Every time, right? And usually I'm paying more, unfortunately, because I wait till the last minute to book. But it is that dynamic pricing model that creates incremental revenue that is really the way our hotel industry grows and the way we can influence our top line revenues. So let's move into the role that data plays in the analytics and forecasting demand and optimizing those room rates. So maybe talk about first the data. Now we have multiple franchises we work with, and I think everyone around this table can speak to how protective they are of that data, for good reason, as they should. So it's really hard to get that data in those individual property management system silos to aggregate it so we can get a really clear picture of what is actually happening with our portfolio and also with the market at large. Of course, we have Smith Travel Research reports that we can use to help understand what our competitive set is doing. But let's talk about the role that data plays when we're making those decisions, and specifically, how do we use data to forecast demand?
Now, I think we have talked about the pickup report on a previous episode of this, right? So, Britton, do you want to talk about the pickup report and how it used to be an Excel spreadsheet, and then I'll go from there.
So pickup report used to rely on somebody at the hotel running reports and then taking all the numbers and manually inputting them into a spreadsheet. So how many rooms you had left to sell for the next year. You'd update each day. You would also update what the current ADR is, so you knew where that was sitting each day. So that was a time-consuming process, relying on somebody at the hotel to do that each morning. And then we send it back and forth to make decisions on what rates should be based off this spreadsheet. David has helped us get rid of the manual process and take some of that time off of the team so that it's an automated report that I can run now whenever I want to, and I'm not relying on taking somebody else's time to do it.
Yeah, so the pickup report is, your snapshot of supply and demand is at the end of the day of what it is. And we used to employ some people, full-time people, to create these things on a daily basis for the multiple properties. It was asked to automate this thing, and it turned into quite a bit more, but we had to go through some hurdles. Caleb talked about the data silos that exist everywhere, and each brand system and has very unique traits about it, and that make it a little difficult to get that data out. But one way or another, mostly leaning on various report exports out of there, we were able to bring it all into a single system and start generating single reports based on that, which allow you then to see this holistic, high-level view of how everything is looking throughout the organization. And then the automation started speeding that up, where now we're seeing those data points come in multiple times a day, and you can see in real time how these things move. So it's turned into that, and we lean a lot on that data anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think the speed and the accessibility to the data is a game changer for our company from a revenue management. I think that's our secret sauce. We know how rooms are moving, when they're moving, what days they're moving, and we can make pricing decisions based on that every minute of the day if we want to.
Yeah.
So and we can look at it from a 30,000-foot view and not just hotel specific. And maybe let's talk about kind of room movement and what that looks like. I mean, in terms of how do you make a pricing decision when you start to see rooms move?
Well, hopefully it's increasing.
But what variables do you look at? It's not just, hey, we have rooms moving. Are you looking at the market? Like, what do you look at?
You want to know what your room movement was. So sometimes I might see large room movement because we just put in a group block. So I may not make a change to the rate at that time because I know that's not some transient movement. It depends on when the time of the year it is. So in our off season, not always a ton of changes based off of a few rooms moving. But if across all the hotels I'm seeing a spike in movement for 3 weeks from now, there could be an event going on, and I'm going to continue to see that movement. So we may need to make an adjustment to the pricing strategy.
So why don't we just let a bot make those decisions? Like, hey, let's throw some AI at it. And quite honestly, our franchises have done that. They've tried to create these revenue management systems that create hurdles, which will therefore increase your rate at X. We have some control over it, but explain why that doesn't work.
And like you said, all of our brands have that, and we use it to some degree, but we still have some controls in place, or we may override what it wants to do. They don't always know the full picture, whereas we're seeing what's happening at, 5 hotels in one market, and they're looking at perhaps just one. Sometimes they will think it's best for a total multiple night stay. That's going to give you the most money, but it's maybe not going to sell one of the rooms one night.
Right.
Whereas if we don't sell it, you can't ever sell it again. So sometimes we make a decision to override what that model wants to do.
And every hotel and every market's different. So there's, in my opinion, there's simply too many variables to account for to allow a software system to make that decision. Because Event weekends change. We're such event-driven market in and around our area. You may have
Weather.
Weather's a huge one, especially
Weather's
coming
a huge
up
one.
here on our shoulder season. We know winter is coming. So all of those variables make it incredibly difficult just to trust the franchise revenue management system to set your pricing. If you do that, you're making a fatal error and you're leaving thousands of dollars on the table.
I think we have a good hybrid currently with our knowledge from our people and from our teams and what is happening right here, also utilizing the best parts of their systems.
And David, you spoke about our data system that was developed over the years, and there's been many iterations. Most recently, we invested heavily in creating a scalable, real-time data gathering system on Microsoft's Fabric and Power BI platforms, where we are scraping these reports and we're throwing this data into a database of which we can aggregate, and we can take a look at the entire market to make really, really smart decisions. I think that software system, it's the only one I've ever heard of that actually can take multiple franchise property management systems and throw it all into an aggregated data analytics platform for us to see it in real time. That's really, I've never seen it done. I was just at the lodging conference in Scottsdale, Arizona, talked to a couple people about it there. They've never seen it done. Generally, you can do multiple hotels on a single platform with a single property management system, Hilton with PEP, for example. That'd be much easier to do, but we do it across Hilton, Marriott, Wyndham, Choice. We do it across multiple franchises. And I think it really gives us a competitive edge in the market. So, speaking of franchises, how do loyalty programs impact the revenue strategy in our industry? So, my personal opinion is Hilton has the strongest loyalty program through their Hilton Honors program. I think their tech is far superior to any other franchise in the market. And what role does having that loyalty program play in our revenue management?
Well, investing in the loyalty programs, so you're reliant on, you're going to get repeat guests. You're going to get the people that love the Hilton app versus picking the other hotel down the street. Results in higher ADRs. Generally, we have more ancillary revenue from the loyalty guests. On the front end, it's a little bit of a discount generally for being a member, but it also saves us as they're booking direct, so it saves us a bunch on the back end in commissions.
Sure. And generally speaking, a loyalty club member is going to want to upgrade. They're going to want some of the auxiliary services, and we generally capture a higher ADR from our loyalty club members.
Yep.
What are some of the biggest challenges we face in balancing occupancy and ADR? So I always joke about this, and I'm quite serious with our franchise representatives, that I can't deposit ADR. And every single franchise wants you to be in your swim lane for your brand, and there is a ADR range they want you to live in. And in many ways, we're not a very good partner for them because we drastically change our ADR based on what the market is allowing us. Now, our secret formula, we're gonna share this. I don't know why I'm doing it, but I'm gonna share it. Our secret formula, it's very, very simple for revenue management, and it's to sell every room every night for the highest rate possible, right? It's really, really tough to execute. But if we can do that, we win, and we get better RevPAR. Now, we're going to throw a bunch of acronyms out, and maybe we have some of the audience that aren't hoteliers that maybe doesn't know what ADR and RevPAR means. So, Ken, why don't you tell us what ADR is?
Average daily rate, which is your room revenue for the day divided by number of rooms sold.
Exactly.
You sold one room for $1,000. Your ADR is $1,000.
And you only made
You made
$1,000.
$1,000. Your other 800 rooms were empty.
Exactly.
Yep.
And then RevPAR. What's RevPAR stand for?
Revenue per available room.
Correct.
So it's dividing that same revenue across the number of rooms in your hotel,
Correct.
regardless if they're sold.
Which those numbers are the same if you sell out.
Yep. Makes it real easy
It
that
does
way.
very easy if you sell out.
So is ADR, occupancy, or RevPAR most important?
No, RevPAR by far.
Yeah.
That's the actual money you take to the bank, right? And it's always a balance between occupancy and ADR.
Yep.
Now, the more rooms you sell, from a profitability standpoint, the more cost you're going to incur, right? Because I have to clean the room, I have to maintain the room, I have to check the person in. So there's overhead for every occupied room.
Yep.
So if I can drive more ADR, conceivably, more of the ADR gets driven to the bottom line. And there's a balance there. To Ken's point, I can sell one room and my maintenance and my housekeeping goes way down and I sell it for $1,000, but I only make $1,000, right, in revenue. So it's really a balance of finding how do we sell every room, every night for the highest rate possible. And hotel room nights are perishable. What does that mean?
If you don't sell it that night, you can't sell it ever again.
I can't sell yesterday's room.
It's
Today.
gone forever. So in our company, we make a big deal about a room going vacant during our high demand periods because that is a room night we can never sell again. And of course, we're using the levers of ADR to try to sell every one of those rooms, right? So there's an equilibrium that you hit at some point in order to achieve maximum RevPAR. And we're gonna get into some other discussion about casino and food and beverage management a little later on in the podcast, but there's also something called TrevPAR. What does TrevPAR stand for?
Total revenue per available room.
Correct. So you can take your entire revenue top line divided by the number of rooms you have available, and then you get TrevPAR. And that's a metric that's very important to the integrated resort products that have multiple outlets, multiple food and beverage, casino, other revenue departments that contribute to the top line. So I guess going back to the balance of occupancy and ADR, how do you achieve that? How does that work?
It's not an easy one to answer.
It's really difficult.
So the biggest challenge is you can set them all at a high ADR, you sell a few, and you completely lose all your occupancy, or vice versa. You can sell all your rooms too fast and not get anywhere close to what you should have based on the market.
We might be one of the only companies that our general managers are disappointed when they're sold out ahead of time because we make a big deal about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
That means you weren't priced right.
Yep.
So our revenue management team makes sure that going into the day, we have the appropriate number of rooms to sell for that day. If you go in sold out, it's a problem. You didn't charge enough.
Yep.
So that dynamic pricing model should be a nice smooth curve up to the day to stay. And our last rooms that we sell should be the highest rate of the night. That should be the highest ADR rooms we sell. Because you're crescendoing into this big demand curve that is creating day of stay. I need a place. I have the last inventory. We can drive rate.
Yep. And that number is different for each one of our hotels. So finding that magical number of how many rooms should I go into the day with on this particular weekend or this Wednesday, it's always changing and it's different for each one of our hotels.
So if you're a hotelier, we're telling you, you need to focus on RevPAR, not ADR and occupancy. Those are levers,
Yep.
but RevPAR is what matters.
Correct.
Is that what we're trying to share today?
Yeah.
Okay. I like it. So let's talk about segmentation and personalization in hotel pricing. There's lots of different channels, right? We get reservations coming in on. We distribute inventory across OTAs. We obviously brand sells us.
What are OTAs?
Oh, great question, Ken. Those are online travel agents. That's what it stands for. So when I say OTAs, I'm talking about the Expedias, Booking.com, Pricelines, the opaque sites of which we distribute inventory on online. Those are commissionable rates. So we pay Expedia and Booking to sell these rooms for us. So we're sharing some of that revenue with them in order, and generally it's about 10%. So during our peak periods, part of what our strategy is we don't want to sell rooms on OTAs, if at all possible. There's enough demand within the market that we want to reduce the amount of rooms that we're giving those OTAs to sell for us, because we get to keep more of that money. So that increases your top line. So your GOP, your gross operating profit, is much better if we can reduce those OTAs. But that's a distribution channel that's very important to our business as well. During our shoulder and off season, when we have waning demand, are we on OTAs?
Yes.
I mean, we might be selling as much as 30-40% of our hotel on OTAs.
Yep.
And like it or not, that's the reality of it. Fortunately, our franchises negotiate pretty good rates, commission rates for us. So Hilton, Marriott, Wyndham, Choice, they'll go out there and they'll negotiate with these large online travel agents to give us a reduced commission rate. So when we're talking about segmentation and personalization in hotel pricing, what are we talking about there? Like, you talked about group. Maybe there's a group that comes in. That's one segment.
There's group segments. There's the transient segment. There is L&Rs,
Which are?
local negotiated rates. So rates that we negotiate and contract with a company for X period of time, that if they have people come stay, this is the rate that they'll get.
And it's just kind of run a house, meaning we're not guaranteeing a room availability. If we have the room available, you get this rate.
Yep. Long-term stay is pretty important at several of our hotels. Whole nother segment.
And why is a long-term stay room more profitable than others?
Because most people staying with you for a month don't need their room cleaned every day. They don't want full service every day. They're just, the expenses of maintaining the room for them are a lot less than flipping a room for a new guest every day.
Right. We don't have to clean it every day.
Yeah.
And that's a huge labor savings. So with our extended stay hotels, we really strive to get to that 20-30% extended stay guests of 100% of our inventory. We want that baseline because, again, we can offer a reduced rate for that extended stay and still be at the same level of profitability on that room, even with a reduced rate. So it's really important for our base business and our extended stay hotels to have that extended stay guest, which can be challenging in a transient market like us, in a very heavy leisure market.
Yep. You have to constantly look at that segment and where we're priced at and where everybody else is for a long-term stay and make adjustments.
Absolutely. So I guess to sum up our hotel revenue management, if anyone's interested in getting into the hotel business, they should just open a hotel and open the doors, and it just works, right?
Totally.
It's just that easy.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's a very complex, very scientific, daily, hourly, minute-by-minute process. And, I think our company, very proud of our revenue management efforts. I think we do a great job of doing that. And we have a lot of tools and resources within our company that make it a very efficient process. And we can make those decisions. We can spend our time making decisions versus doing administrative data entry.
Yeah.
And the software that we have developed that's proprietary is a game changer when it comes to that. We can spend all of our time making the right pricing decisions versus, hey, where do I find this information? Or, oh my gosh, 20 rooms already moved and I haven't made a pricing adjustment. So we can act in real time. So
I also think one of our keys to success with it is we have a lot of our team that is involved and on board with it. So it's not just one revenue manager doing it all for one hotel. All management is, our front desk is involved. Like, people are telling me like things that are happening and changing, and so it's a really concerted effort across multiple groups, like lots of eyes.
yeah, maybe talk about that a little more in depth about who's involved in these pricing decisions. You're absolutely right. It's not some ivory tower revenue management manager saying, hey, your price is going to be at this. It's a collaborative effort.
We really involve our front desks, so they know a general plan. We train them on how to make adjustments and sort of some guides on if you see something happen, then go ahead and make the adjustment. We train them, empower them to do it. We have a revenue management team. I even have, maintenance people that talk to me about like, hey, this is going on, and I think rates need to change. And we have a very involved sales team. I mean, it's everybody.
And there is not a software in the world that can accomplish that, right? So you need that collaboration across all of those departmental efforts in order to make it in order for us to reach our highest potential and top line hotel revenue. Let's kind of shift gears over to the casino side. And, all of us sitting around this table have had some experience on the casino side of things. And of course, we have 2 casino resorts in Deadwood that are our market leaders that command a heavy market share. And we've done it for quite a few years, and we've really come to know and love the Deadwood market. And it's a lot of fun to be in that line of business. I talk about casino resorts, and what's the difference between just a regular hotel or a regular restaurant when you have this integrated resort experience. And at the end of the day, you're selling an entertainment product. So you want people to have fun. You have a little more money in marketing to be able to do some fun things and promotions and giveaways. And it's really about creating an experience for the people that come see you. Now, how do we get people to come into our doors in the casino? Much like many casino markets, Deadwood is highly, highly competitive.
Yeah.
I mean, you literally can walk 100 feet and you're in another casino. So it's casinos stacked one after another within, obviously Main Street for sure, and even outside of Main Street. So how do we get people in our door in our casinos?
Well, I think first you need to have a good product. It needs to be fresh, it needs to be fun, inviting. If it's old and tired, that's not going to attract likely the guests that you'd like. So keeping it exciting.
So curb appeal?
Curb appeal.
What do you look like from the street?
Right. Once you get inside, you have that. You have various amenities such as food and beverage and sports book and everything else to try to attract the different gamers that you have coming in.
So how do we manage revenue? Okay, so I got a good-looking casino. My casino floor is kind of vibing, and it's hot, it's fun. Staff's engaged. So I've got all the makings of a successful casino. How do we actually manage the revenue? It's not like I can increase my ADR on the slot machine or the table, right? Maybe I can a little bit. But let's talk about how we manage revenue across gaming.
Now, I know when I was in it, I looked at the slot floors, and unlike the hotel industry where data is hard and siloed and difficult to pull out, you're just inundated with so much data on the casino side. So it's having to filter it out to figure out what is important and what's not important when you're trying to do this. And we, when I was looking at it before, and frankly this has been a little bit now, but it was a lot of market basket analysis when we were choosing different slots and trying to figure out different gamer profiles and what does a particular player like to play. And you're trying to build an offering that attracts that sort of player. And so much goes into that, from where that slot machine sits to the denomination of that particular game to the payout percentages that you're configuring. And, it was a little bit of, just trying to find that different balance, because you got these players that want to play that penny game for hours. And then you have the other players that are going to be, spending $100 through per bet, and they want that big win. So it's trying to find a good mix for all the different player profiles and kind of building out these different areas of the casino to target those types of players. That was how I approached it.
Yeah. There's a term in the casino industry when we refer to the math on a slot machine in particular is volatility. So there's a low volatility or a high volatility type slot machine. So you talked about, if any of you have ever walked into a casino and you're like, man, that machine took my money fast. Like, there goes $100 and I didn't even get a win.
Yes.
You're looking for that dopamine hit of a little bit of a win there. That would be a high volatility game. So a high volatility game is going to pay out on the upper end of the pay table, the larger jackpots, but you're not going to get these little trickle pays on the bottom.
Yep.
You're going to have far fewer of those. If you have a low volatility game, it's going to be opposite. That jackpot's rarely going to hit, but you're going to get lots of pays on the low end.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that increases time on device for people. So if somebody's just wanting to kind of game just for the fun of it and get a bonus here and there, but really not win the big jackpot very often, that low volatility game is very appealing to them. Now, from a casino revenue management perspective, which ones do I want?
Oh, you'd want the high volatility. Move people through there.
Do you think we should exclusively have high volatility across the
No.
floor?
No.
I think you need both.
You have to have everything.
You have
or
to
you
have
won't have any
everything.
locals.
So every gamer is different, and there's the I call them the true gamers that are going to want the big win. They're playing because they want the big jackpot, and they're going to want a high volatility game, and they're willing to come in and spend some big money to chase that big jackpot. Those low volatility game players are going to want time on device. I want my free cocktail while I'm playing.
Mm-hmm.
Those low volatility players are a more expensive player on your casino floor than those that prefer the higher volatility. So in terms of managing revenue across a casino floor, the type of game mix on the slot floor is very, very important.
Yep.
Right? So you have denoms, you want the right denoms, the right denom mix, and how do you determine what is the right denominational mix? How many penny games versus quarter games versus dollar games do I need on my floor?
Anymore, most machines are all of those things.
Multi-denom.
I mean, you can play for a penny up to $100 a spin.
So you can play a penny game is not a penny game anymore, right?
No.
You can set a maximum bet on a penny game at $100, $200, $500, whatever you want, and it's obviously a video reel multi-line game. 20, 30 years ago, the denomination made more of a difference because you were literally putting a coin in the slot and you were paying or playing a nickel or a quarter or a dollar, right? So the actual denom is more so what the player wants versus what the casino needs, if that makes sense. So you can have the same bet no matter what denomination you're playing. And a lot of these games are multi-denominational. So really, from a casino management, revenue management standpoint, it's really finding the right mix of slot machine. Table games, same concept, right? What is the ADR on a table game? How do you what would be the equivalent to ADR on a table game?
Average bet?
I would say minimum bet.
Minimum bet.
So you can set a floor at a table game. So if you want to sit at my table and stay at my table, I can set a minimum bet. So the revenue management on table games varies slightly in that hour by hour, depending on how busy we are, we can actually increase those table minimums and maximums, right? Part of the table game is making sure you have enough tables to appeal to all the players you want, right? There's, again, just like the high volatility, low volatility slot machine, you have the same type of gamer on a table game. You might need to set a high limit table so that it only attracts those players that want to play perfect blackjack, that are going to play the right way. You might have more casual table where you have just the people rolling through for a day that are going to play maybe a not perfect blackjack, and a high limit player will get really frustrated. You probably don't want to mix those two players, right? So you can really set a floor on your table games by using your minimum bet. And that's how you can control what I like to think of as ADR on your table game. And again, it's all based on demand and how busy you are and what the day is looking like. And our pit bosses and our managers do a great job of making sure we're adjusting those accordingly.
And, I think at the end of the day, it's just to increase the quantity of games a player plays. And, that time on device that you said, whether it's a card table or otherwise, we mentioned volatility earlier, and that's not to be confused with, theoretical hold or payback. Is like all of these games are designed to, net a house win of a certain percentage. So you just want to keep them playing on those machines long enough to realize that percentage there at the end of the game. So there's all those different strategies we use.
Absolutely.
This episode of the Hospitality Playbook is brought to you by Live Hospitality. Did you know Live Hospitality operates 13 hotels, 4 premier resorts, and a portfolio of standout restaurants? Behind every exceptional guest experience, culinary innovation, and high-performing team is a management group built for results. Whether you're an independent hotel owner looking to elevate performance or a new investor seeking trusted operators, Live Hospitality offers full-service management built on decades of operational excellence. From luxury to leisure, every touchpoint is tailored to your property's identity while driving strong returns. If you're thinking about what's next for your property, think Live. Let us show you what's possible when passion meets performance. Visit livehotelgroup.com, that's livhotelgroup.com to learn more.
And that's a great point. I think we should talk about what metrics do we follow and what matters on a casino floor. What do we track?
Well, handle games.
So what's handle?
Handle is the quantity of games, or how many, like if you're playing a slot, it's a spin of the reels.
Okay.
Or, a hand of blackjack, or however it is.
Do you know why it's called handle?
There's
Yeah,
actually a
builds.
handle. that
Yeah.
always
You
have
got the
to-
one-armed bandits. It's the pull of the handle. So
They're-
that is colloquially what the casino industry is just knows as quantity of games played.
There's still
So
a
every
few
time I
out
s-
there.
Yeah, there are. There's some
Still a
one-armed
few.
bandits out there.
Right.
And then that handle pull creates what?
Well, it creates coin in next.
Coin in.
So coin in is a sum of the bets. So for each handle pull, if it's $1 per spin and they spin it 5 times, that's $5 worth of coin in.
Agreed. So a lot of people, and that number can get very big very
Very big.
quickly, right? Because I might put $5 in a slot machine and I might get $100 worth of coin in.
Right.
Because I win and I play it off. I win, I play it off. I win, I play it off. And all of a sudden it starts aggregating to a total sum much larger than the actual money I put in. So when gaming jurisdictions report play, I think a lot of the general public confuse that coin in number
Actual
As
dollars.
real
with
revenue.
actual dollars that were put into a slot machine, and that is not the case. Generally speaking, it's about 6 times less than that in terms of actual dollars put in. So for every dollar that you put in a slot machine, it'll usually cycle about 6.5 times through the slot machine. And it's all varies based on the pay tables and slot machines are built on random number generators, which means you can't beat it.
No.
Like over millions of plays, I know people think they can, and God bless you for it.
Oh, I know. As an IT guy that used to work on slots, I get that question so many times.
Yeah.
But that machine, as it's sitting there, is cycling through its random numbers all the time, even if it's not being played. And hey, you could be the lucky one that presses the button, but there's no magic button in the back that anybody can press. No.
So in gaming, there's class 2 and class 3. And I just want to share this real quick because I think it matters. So a class 2 gaming device or a gaming game is a finite number of outcomes. So think of back in the old days, there were pull tabs, right? You buy the card, you pull the tabs, you see if you line up the fruit. That when you buy those pull tabs, there's a finite number of winners. So there's 10,000 cards you're going to sell, and there's going to be X amount of winners every single time. Think of bingo. Bingo has a finite number of winners because there's only 75 numbers, and it's a finite statistical number. Class 3 gaming, on the other hand, is an infinite number, meaning there's an infinite number of combinations, and it can happen at any time. I've seen slot machines hit back-to-back jackpots, 2 spins in a row. Like, what are the odds, right? Well, what are the odds? It's completely random.
At least 1 in 17 million.
At least. So all of these metrics that we take a look at for evaluating our casino performance, when we look at casinos, now we have these player management systems, these casino management systems that we hook up to all of our devices, excluding table games because they are a manual process. It's not electronic, right? There are some electronic table games out there, but they've really struggled to find a foothold in the market because it's very clunky and not very accurate. But from a slot machine standpoint, it is a giant network of which we can gather all of this data we're talking about. Now, when you layer on top of that a CRM, a customer relationship management system, or a client relationship management system, your player's club card, when you stick that in a slot machine and you're getting your points, it ties those metrics to you as a player. So in the casino world, if I'm a marketer, it is the greatest world to be in because I know everything about my client. I know their spending habits. I know which games they like to play. I know what motivates them. I know what type of game they play, whether it's a table game or a slot machine or high or low volatility or a reel game or a video reel game, whatever it might be. I can tailor marketing to these folks because I know about them. And you guys have all, played around in those systems and you're aware of them. I mean, that is something, not many industries can provide. And the casino industry has this amazing system. It's a blessing and a curse. It's a lot to take care of. They're very complex systems, but they create a lot of opportunity for us to market properly, to drive revenue. So when we're driving revenue and these player tracking systems are in place, what do we do with that information to help manage revenue for casinos?
A lot of it we use a lot of it for what kind of offers to send them. So what kind of things does Caleb like? How can I get him to come back and see me again? Is it to come stay in the hotel? Does he really like dinner? How many more trips do I want him to come?
Right. And how many more trips am I willing to come? Because because you've tried and I might not be willing to come. And where's that offer need to be to get me to come? Yep. Right. So with our player management systems, we create a player reinvestment strategy that says of the total theoretical win, average daily theoretical win, we call it ADT in the casino industry, how much of that am I willing to give back to the player to create another trip?
Well, it depends on the different players. So we do segmentation, various, let's say, tiers to make it simple. But yeah, you separate those players into different, segments based on their ADT, the average daily theoretical win. And I don't think we covered win is both sides of the coin. It's the money they win at the end of the day, or it's the money the casino wins at the end of the day. But when we say average daily theoretical, we try to take out the volatility of that win. It's just based on the coin and going in, based on the average payout of what they were playing. This is theoretically what they should have. But those different segments, you then, tier your offers based on that type of player and how much they're contributing towards the casino.
Right. And, we come up with a reinvestment strategy. We're willing to invest in this player to get them in. And that changes for each segment too. and we get very granular in terms of how we segment players. I think the immediacy, the cadence of the offer matters.
Yep.
How often do I give these offers? And, how often do I touch these players in terms of mailing, in terms of text, in terms of whatever communication it might be. And then the other overarching is you have a whole bunch of players that aren't Players Club members, right?
Yeah.
That need to feel that same excitement and that same energy, and we want them to become members. But we do all of these promotions, right? We usually have a car giveaway, or we have a sauna giveaway. I think Tin Lizzie's doing a sauna this month. Caddy's is doing a car all the time. Like, we give away these big prizes, of which requires qualification
Yep.
using your Players Club card. So that's a way for us to attract players to become members so that we can better market to them. And then we give away these amazing prizes based on their play. So they get entries into the drawing based on how many points they earn. So we use all of these promotions, the segmentation, all of this data on the casino side to create a revenue management model, if you will. And we can actually forecast based on, how we're measuring our promotions and our comps, all of the reinvestment that we're doing. We can actually forecast what we're going to make on this stuff, knowing what our redemption rates are. So maybe we should talk a little bit about why is it important to measure everything we're doing?
To know if it worked or not. Or if you're just throwing stuff at the wall, see if it sticks.
Right.
If you don't measure it, then you don't know.
What's the saying? If it can't be measured, it can't be managed.
That's a pretty good one.
Well, that's good.
True.
Everybody write that one down. That's a Davidism there. That's a good one.
I didn't come up with it,
But it's true, right? I mean, I call it walking in the dark. Like, why wouldn't we, if we can, shine a light on this thing so we know? We're not just walking in the dark, kind of tripping and bumping our nose on things. Like, we need to know what's working. And frankly, that's one of the hardest things to do because it takes time, it takes administrative power to take the time to run all these redemption rates, to understand the holistic picture. But it is one of the most important things you can do in order to measure the return on investment in the casino revenue management cycle.
Yep.
And frankly, I think as a company, we can do a better job of that. We have all the resources, but it takes people. Now, I do think there's opportunity moving forward to integrate some AI into helping us automate some of this stuff so that we can get some dashboarding in real time of how is the redemption rate going on this particular promotion.
or just to help filter out, because I mentioned earlier, just there's so much data.
So much data.
And yes, we're gonna have to lean on some tools like that to help filter it down to something actionable.
Yeah. In our casino environment, we talked about slots and table games. Of course, we have Sportsbook, which is relatively new to our market, and we continue to get more sophisticated in running our sports betting platforms. But all the same concepts, pertain to that same effort. But I will tell you that sports betting has brought a new and different type of gamer into our market. So while we're on-premise retail, which doesn't allow us to maybe enjoy the revenue side as much as if we had statewide sports gaming or something of that nature, you have to be in-person betting in the casino, either at a kiosk or a window. It has brought in a new player that's been introduced to our product. So maybe they'll stop by and play, a slot machine or throw some money on a table game. We've integrated table games in our sportsbook to a degree. So we're trying multiple different things to revenue manage the actual sports betting revenue as well. And BetMGM has been a great partner for us there and giving us ideas and continuing to work with us. And we're hopeful that, in the future we can actually go statewide sports betting here in South Dakota. That's an effort we think makes sense as long as it runs through Deadwood. So all the transactions, all the management, all the oversight, all the regulation happens in Deadwood. You can just be in Sioux Falls and place a bet, but it all runs through Deadwood. Because right now people are doing it anyway, and it's a giant sucking sound that just kind of runs into Iowa and the Wyoming, the surrounding states that do allow statewide sports betting. Anything else on the casino side you guys want to share that that might be a
Well,
benefit.
to that, the mobile statewide, I mean, I got the infrastructure in place, so go talk to your congressman or whatever. Let's make this happen. I
Yeah.
can turn it on if I get the green light.
We absolutely can, and it's been done in other states. It can be done. It's just a matter of, does the state have the appetite to do that? And I think they do, but there's also a side of it being viewed as an expansion of gaming, which it really isn't. It's all confined to Deadwood. It just allows someone to do it from their phone. If they're going to do it from their phone now, they're doing it on an offshore account or driving across the border to a surrounding state. So it really is a logical argument, I think, and not an expansion of gaming, because we already have Sportsbook in Deadwood.
Right.
Anything else, I guess, on the casino? Ken, anything?
Well,
you
I may
used to
think-
be with the gaming commission there. You spent a lot of years in Deadwood.
I did. The one thing you can do is tailor your offers to your various tiers. Like, oh, we want to push our hotel stays. We're going to give, a deal on the rooms, and to help our hotel in the wintertime when we're struggling to fill.
Absolutely.
We might push more there, or we want to push one of our food and beverage outlets if we're wanting to see higher sales there. So you can direct a little bit of what in your offer,
Absolutely.
what you give to people. And some people have no interest in a room that, if they're very local, they won't.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean much to them. But like, oh, a dinner, now that's
Right.
a whole different thing.
And I think that can influence demand, going back to the inelasticity of hotel room demand.
Yeah.
With our integrated resort product, we can actually influence demand by saying, have a staycation. That's a traveler that generally wouldn't be traveling.
Right.
But through our offers, through the casino, we can actually influence that decision and increase demand. So
We become the destination.
correct. And it's all through marketing efforts, to Britton's point earlier. Yeah, but those segmented, personalized offers are critical. I mean, that is part of that player reinvestment. That if we err on the side of occupancy in our hotels, in our casino resorts, because we want heads and beds, of which we'll hopefully spend money in all of our other revenue departments,
All your other
right?
outlets, yeah.
So we always try to err on the side of occupancy versus ADR, because the more heads and beds we have, the more money we will make as a resort in all of our other outlets. Some of those outlets being food and beverage.
Yep.
So that's the last component of revenue management we need to talk about, that is really becoming increasingly difficult to manage. Everything from labor costs to product costs, all of the associated costs that go into managing food and beverage is real. And, again, I just got back from the lodging conference. That was a big topic of discussion there as well, because everyone's feeling the pain there. Beef is off the charts. Most proteins are seeing 20-30% increases in cost, and that is really hard to manage. And I always joke with our operations team, I'm just going to put market price for all of my pricing on the entire menu, and we get to decide that day, because that's how volatile pricing has become.
Yeah.
Everything's lobster on our menu, and it'll be at market price. But obviously that's not feasible. So what are the key levers for driving profitability in food and beverage? What do we look at? Obviously revenue.
Right.
Labor's one of our biggest
Labor.
expenses there.
Menu costing is a very big deal now.
Yeah.
So labor is a big cost, but most times, unless they're management, it's a tipped position, of which allows us to pay a lesser hourly rate. So, a lot of their income comes through tips and gratuities, which for the casino and for food and beverage, the new law being passed with no tax on tips up to $25,000 of your income is massive,
Yeah.
right? That's a huge thing for our industry, and a giant win that I think is going to really positively impact and actually kind of draw more folks, more workforce to our industry, because you don't pay tax on that first $25,000 in tips that you make. So the wage can be, and it's usually on the administrative side in
Yeah.
management. A lot of our food and beverage operations will run, if you take management out, will run 9-10% labor costs, which is pretty good, honestly. I generally, if we can stay anything under 15%, we're in good shape. So the food costs, the cost of goods, is critical for driving profitability. And that's usually the most impactful and the hardest to control. Because again, the pricing volatility is one thing. But what are some of the other components that influence food costs?
Waste.
Portion sizing.
Waste, portion control. Those are massive ones, right? And you brought up probably the biggest one earlier is the menu engineering and pricing out those items. And, it's been increasingly difficult to be able to charge enough for a meal in order to keep your margins in line. So, food and beverage generally has become almost an amenity to most of our properties. It's very, very difficult to make money and actually drive profitability in food and beverage. And I hope that changes in the near future. And our operations team, we continue to really drive on, menu engineering and managing labor, and then creating the experience and the plate and the flavor profiles that people want. So in terms of driving revenue, why do I come into your restaurant? Like how do I revenue manage in food and beverage? Crickets. It's a hard one to answer.
It is.
Just open your doors. People will flood in. It's great.
Yeah, if only. Well, again, I think it has something to do with the product. Here is a computer guy speaking, so take that with a grain of salt. But, I know when I go to a restaurant, I'm willing to pay a little bit more for good food. And that's really what I'm after. I want good food with no fuss, just, and get what I need and get out. And I think the operators, they want that too, to an extent. You want your table turns. You want, to be able to charge a premium price. If you're serving the, my mind goes to those beer battered fries that everybody served there for a while. And if the product is identical everywhere you go and the price is varying, what's the point of going anywhere different? You got to have a product that attracts people.
Right. I think it comes down to reputation. We, especially in today's social media age, what do we trust? We trust recommendations. I go to a restaurant because someone said, you got to try this.
Yeah.
Or I jump on Yelp and say, okay, I'm going to look at the reviews here. I might be traveling to a market and I'm like, okay, well, this is a decent restaurant. But we've been our own enemy in food and beverage, I think. There's such a wide range of varying product and experience that we're a little gun shy. So we really, as consumers, we spend a lot of time trying to get a referral. I want to hear from someone who's actually ate there and didn't get sick and had a decent experience that I want to eat there. Do you guys take the same approach?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when you go someplace where you haven't been. When you travel, you kind of look at the Yelp reviews like, well, this has a cool ad and all that. And it doesn't, the menu, once you get it, it's like, oh, this is very blah, very mid.
Yeah, very mid. I love that. Ken brings all the slang. I appreciate it, man. No cap. So, sorry, that's our dad joke. I mean, we gotta have a little fun. So I think it starts with reputation. I mean, how do you get people to come into your business? Now, we run resorts and hotels that have food and beverage. We have very few standalone restaurants. So if I'm a Cheesecake Factory that's a standalone restaurant, my approach to revenue management and driving top line is going to be different than if I'm an integrated resort restaurant. So let's talk about how do we get people into our restaurants in our resorts. Because here's the thing. Like it or not, the reputation of hotel restaurants is terrible.
Yep.
Everybody says don't eat at the hotel restaurant, right? How do we overcome that?
I mean, you got to have the product that stands on its own. You know, whatever it is, people come there just for the food and, you know, not specifically just because it's there.
Our front desk is where the recommendations are at for all of our hotel guests. I mean, how often does somebody ask the front desk agent, where should I go have dinner?
So I use digital key or mobile key as often as I can because I don't want to go to the front desk. There is one reason I will go to the front desk,
To ask about food.
and it's where do I eat? Because that front desk agent generally isn't super incentivized to try to tell me, and a lot of times they won't even recommend their own, which gives me hives when I hear that, right? They should always be recommending their own product. But they generally want me to be happy, and they're going to recommend something that I'm going to enjoy.
Yep.
So that front desk agent is so critical to driving top-line revenue in an integrated resort environment. Because they are viewed as the trusted source.
Yeah.
I mean, good or bad, but they are trusted.
They're going to recommend the places that they've gone or that they like or have had good experiences, but they have lots of feedback from all of their past guests that have gone there and said,
Sure.
yes, this was great.
Absolutely.
They're one of the best resources.
So as a company, do we put an emphasis on selling our own outlets?
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's in the manifesto.
It's in the manifesto. And that's so critical to driving top line in F&B. We have to get bodies in. And then I think once you do that through reputation, through online platforms, OpenTable, Yelp, other platforms that people use as a trusted resource, Facebook, Instagram, any of the social media platforms do the same thing for us. Once we get them in the door, then it's about environment,
Yeah.
right? You judge the place by the environment, by the staff. Did I get a warm welcome? Did they ignore me? Did they make eye contact? Do they really truly appreciate that I walked in? That's a huge part of it. And then the product ultimately, right? I always say you eat with your eyes first. So when you see that plate come out, it has to have a presentation that's appealing and looks good. I mean, how many times have you driven by a restaurant or a hotel or anything, and it's the curb appeal? That's the curb appeal for a restaurant, is what does that plate look like? If it's carelessly put together and it's sloppy and it's not eye appealing, you've already set the tone.
Yep.
So the food and beverage revenue management is a really tough one. And trying to drive profitability in that arena, I don't think it's going to get easier. I think it's going to get more difficult. And it just takes discipline and process. One of the main components of a successful food and beverage operation is consistency. So when I go to a restaurant and I have a great meal, I want to go back.
Right.
But when I go back and it's not a great experience or a great meal, I might not go back again.
It's very true.
You might give me once.
Batting 500 isn't good enough in F&B. You got to be 750 or above, right? You really, and you're not going to be perfect, but you got to win way more than you lose. And that experience from a product and a staff standpoint, once you get them in the door, is what's going to drive your top line. And then the menu engineering has to follow in that. So you have to have that menu engineered in such a way that it ensures your profitability. And when you're engineering that menu, you want to call out in the design of the menu your high profit items. You want to highlight it. You want to make them signature dishes. You want to make them stand out so that you want them in the middle of the menu because that's generally where your eye is going to go. You want to make it look a little different than your other items. So you really want to call out your high profit items in your menu design. And it's having a great chef and a great food and beverage director that is able to engineer that menu in such a way that you got to know what's selling. You got to look at the weighted averages of things, and you want to make sure that whatever you're selling the most of is your highest profitable item, and that's your only chance to make it
Right.
and make a profit in food and beverage.
And you mentioned staff a little earlier. I mean, we talk hotel and casino. While staff do play critical roles there, I think in food and beverage, that customer experience, the staff is, immediately making an impact right there far more than those other outlets, in my opinion.
I totally agree. And we have some great local hangouts in our company. Iconic
Yeah.
restaurants and bars like Patty O'Neill's here in Rapid City, Flight Steakhouse up at Cadillac Jack's, Sliders Bar and Grill at Watsiki. Like, we have long-standing food and beverage operations that people are aware of and know about, but the staff is what makes the difference. That experience.
Even more so, we were just traveling, and what do you recommend in the and then you would want your staff to recommend
The highest profit item.
higher profit items, but I'm like,
And they got to be great. Like, they can't be terrible in the highest profit because no one's going to order it ever
right,
again.
exactly.
It has to be your go-to.
It has to be it. Very true. And people are like, oh, what do you? If I'm between these two, which one do you like better? Oh, this is my favorite on the menu.
So we've talked about hotel, casino, and F&B and how we drive top line in those. So let's talk about the cross segment strategy, meaning when you walk into our property and we have all three of those components, how do we integrate those revenue strategies? I mean, right now, they're pretty siloed. We have our casino management system, we have our hotel revenue management system, and we have our F&B point of sale.
Can I just make one point on
Yes,
food
sir.
and beverage yet before we move on to that? The thing that's become more critical since COVID is your takeout menu and how easy it is to order things on takeout. And I know quite a few people that order takeout all the time. And if you have a good website that's easy to navigate and not cumbersome and a pain, there's some websites I'm like, I like their food, but I'm not going to go through that hassle.
Yeah.
That's just a pain.
That's
And
a
other
great
ones,
point.
It's just so easy. Boom,
Makes it
boom, boom.
easy.
Yeah, okay. I'll be there, pick it up. Don't worry. Or have it delivered.
Yeah.
That's
Partnering
another
with Grubhub and Uber Eats
Right.
and companies like
another
that.
revenue stream that a person can look at. But back
Absolutely.
to your-
Great point.
Sorry.
No, but in that vein, like, how do we integrate that F&B experience across our rooms, casino, any other revenue line that we have? How do we effectively do that?
In the casino world, you can tailor your offer somewhat. In the hotel, I mean, you can do certain things with in-room signage, which is some
Yeah.
franchises
As
are
much
more
as we
lenient
can.
than others.
But this comes into TrevPAR. We talked about that earlier, right?
Right.
The total revenue per available room. And it is a measure of the efficacy of these other revenue departments. So, how do we maximize that? I think it's letting people know you have the product, right? We have a somewhat of a captured audience, right? They're there. They're
Yeah.
staying in a hotel room. We got to get in front of them. They need to know what we have. And, in-room programming is a big, using technology. In-room programming is a big part. The front desk interactions is a big part. Making sure that our desk is trained
Yep.
and they're confident in knowing the information. I truly, and you guys have heard me say this, I truly feel the front desk, the future of the hotel front desk is a concierge. They're not going to check you in. They're not going to check you out. They will simply be there to answer questions and be experts at the area. And I can't wait to see it because I think that makes the hotel experience so much better.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to check in, check out on my mobile device. I won't need to go to the front desk for those administrative tasks. But that front desk agent becomes the concierge. And I think they become one of the most powerful salespeople we have in our buildings. So we just got to make sure that we're properly trained, right? So if we're going to effectively cross-sell across these segments, across these revenue departments, it starts with our people recognizing it and knowing, hey, these are the products. I know I work in the hotel, but we also have a casino and restaurants
Yeah.
that I need to work on. If I'm in the casino, we have a great hotel. Would you like a room tonight? So we can cross-sell amongst all of the interactions we have. Our greatest sales team is the team that's interacting with our guests.
The communication, especially at our resort properties, is really important.
It's critical.
talking back and forth between, the casino. Hey, this is what we have happening in the casino this week. Having those front desk agents share that with guests as
Absolutely.
they're checking in, and knowing what the special is at the restaurant on site. All those good things. It's key to have that communication across the different departments.
Our job in hospitality is to make it comfortable.
Yeah.
We're providing accommodations, we're providing entertainment, we're providing, food product. It needs to be easy and comfortable.
Yeah.
And no hassle. Our job is to remove the obstacles, that create a negative experience. So what about aligning departmental goals with overall profitability? So we have all of these different revenue outlets. What do we do to actually align departmental goals? What are our bonus plans look like?
All they're our best based on it, net operating income.
Yeah.
Every one of our departmental goals are tied in one way or another to NOI, net operating income. And that keeps us all rowing the boat in the right direction, in the same direction. So we're not fighting against each other.
Yeah.
Driving that top line, I can go buy market share. I can buy revenue all day long, especially in the casino world. I can just give you a bunch of free play, and all of a sudden my market share and coin in is going to go through the roof, but it's not profitable. So we always have to keep in mind, while we're driving that top line and we're trying to develop as much strategy around that as we can, we have to remember the net operating income and what's going to flow. We can't just buy the business. That is a losing strategy that will always fail. So, our departmental goals are all focused on achieving net operating income. Even if your job is top line, it's still tied to NOI. So I think that's a big key to making sure that revenue is aligned with actual company success of driving profitability. And we talked about kind of how we use our guest data. In a perfect world, I would love to see an ERP or some sort of software that brings all of the casino and the hotel and the food and beverage activities into one data point. We're working on that.
Someday.
We're working on that. But that truly will give us a CRM, a client relationship management module that gives us the total picture of that guest. And once we arrive there, I think the sky's the limit. I think it takes guest experience to another level, and we can give that B+, A-, A+ level service that you would get at a Ritz-Carlton or some other really high-end resort that has all of these people able to do that and still drive profitability, because they can get $3,000 a night for their room. We can't get that yet, but you're working on it, right? So any final closing thoughts, you guys, from a revenue standpoint that you want to add for our audience here? I guess one point I would like to make, the old adage, revenue hides a lot of sins. It's true. If you drive revenue, it solves a lot of issues.
Yeah.
If the revenue isn't there, you have to manage in such an austere manner that it's a drag. It's not fun. Like, you can't try and do things. R&D suffers, right? Research and development and trying new strategies. All of that suffers when you're trying to manage on such a shoestring budget. So driving top line unleashes the business's success because they have the ability to spend money to make more money.
Yeah. Agreed.
Very true.
Sales cures all ails.
That's another good. Yeah, see,
Ooh.
man, we're dropping wisdom like crazy today. Man. Anything else, you guys? I appreciate all of your time and discussion on this. Revenue management is absolutely critical. I'm sure our audience can feel that. It's something we take very serious. It's one of our highest priorities, all while keeping in mind it has to drive profitability, right? We don't want unprofitable revenue because that does exist. We want to steer clear of that type of effort because it's wasted. But I guess with that, we'll sign off. Any other? I mean, you guys have some really good wisdom you're dropping. I don't want to cut this off too soon. Anything else?
Good over here.
Good.
No parting remarks?
Good.
All right, guys. Great job. Thank you. Tune in next time for our next episode. Appreciate everyone joining us. And have a wonderful day. We'll talk soon. Five voices, one mission. Welcome to the Hospitality Playbook.
How do I stop this thing?
No.